Let's set in a comfortable meditation posture. Close the eyes. Put the attention on the silence that is always there deep in the mind. Connect with that silence and become that silence. This is the silent witness. This is completely beyond the mind. This is not the mind experiencing silence. This is the silent witness. You are the silent witness. Now watch the conscious thinking mind and listen to the words of the Yoga Vasishta. Book 4, Chapter 34. End of the story of Dhamma, Yala, and Kata, Bhima, Basa, and Dhrida. Vasishta continued. Now hear me describe what Sambara did after the fight of Dhamma and his army, and how he remained in his rocky stronghold in the region of hell. After the complete overthrow of Sambara's entire army, and their downfall from heaven like innumerable raindrops falling from a great cloud. And after dispersing itself and disappearing in the autumn, Sambara remained motionless for many years in his strong citadel, numbed by the loss of his forces, defeated by the gods. He wondered about the best means of overcoming the gods. He thought, the demons, Dhamma, and others that I produced by my black arts are all defeated in battle by their foolishness and vanity of pride and ego. Now I will produce some other demons by the power of my charm, and endue them with both the power of reason and acquaintance with spiritual science, so that they may know and judge for themselves. These, being acquainted with the true nature of things and devoid of false views, will not be subject to pride or vanity, but will be able to defeat the gods in combat. Thinking in this way to himself, the archfiend produced a host of good demons by his skill in sorcery. These creatures of his spell filled the space of the sky like bubbles, foam, and float on the surface of the sea. They were all knowing and acquainted with what could be known. They were all dispassionate and sinless and solely intent on their allotted duties, with composed minds and good dispositions. They were known under the names of Bhima, Vyasa, and Dhrida, and by the holiness of their hearts. They looked upon all earthly things as mere straw. These infernal spirits burst out of the ether and sprang up to the upper world, then spread over the face of the sky like a swarm of locusts. They cracked like guns and roared and rolled about like clouds of the rainy season. They fought with the gods for many cycles of years, yet they were not elated with pride, owing to their being under the guidance of reason and judgment. No one could defeat them because they had no desire of having anything and no thought that this is my own. They had no identity as a personal existence, such as this is me and that is another. They were fearless, fighting the gods because they knew they were as mortal as themselves, and because they lacked any difference of knowledge between one another. They attacked with a firm conviction that the unsubstantial body is nothing. The intellect is lodged in the pure soul, and that there is nothing which we call I or another. These demons were devoid of the sense of themselves or their fears. They necessarily had no fear of death. They were employed in their present duties without thoughts of past or future. Their minds were attached to nothing. They slew their enemies without thinking themselves as the slayers. They did their duties and thought themselves as no doers of them. They were utterly free from all desire. They waged war in the sense of doing their duty to their master, while their own nature was entirely free from all passion and affection, always remaining an even tenor. The infernal force under the command of Bhima, Vasa, and Dhrida, bruised and burned and slew and devoured the celestial phalanx. As men knead and fry and boil rice, and afterward eat it up as their food. The celestial army, harassed on all sides by Bhima, Vasa, and Dhrida, fell precipitately from the height of heaven. As the Ganges runs down from the Himalayan heights. The defeated legion of the gods then resorted to the god Vishnu, sleeping on the surface of the ocean of milk. Just as the gods of heaven, clouds of heaven, are driven by winds to the tops of mountains. The god Vishnu, lying as Narayana, folded in the coils of the serpent, like a consort in the arms of his mistress, gave the gods their hope of future final success. The gods hid themselves in that ocean until it pleased Lord Vishnu to proceed out to destroy the demon. Then there was a dreadful war between Vishnu and Sambara, which broke and bore away the mountains as an untimely great deluge of the earth. The mighty demon, finally overthrown by the might of Narayan, was sent and settled in the city of Vishnu after his death. The demons Bhima, Basa, and Drida were also killed in their unequal struggle with Vishnu and were extinguished like lamps by the wind. They became extinct like flames of fire, and it was not known where their vital flames fled. It is the desire of a person that leads him to another state. But these, having no wish in them, had no other places to go. Hence, the soul without wish is liberated, but the mind full of yearning, desires. As we read this, we're reminded of the situation today in human society where we have artificial intelligence and a myriad of robots emerging. These robots are going to be just like Bhima, Basa, and Drida. They are going to literally wage war on humanity. They are the creation of a demon known as Lucifer. Well, this is quite the parallel situation. I doubt that it's going to be as incredible a battle and a siege as is described here. But it is an example of how someone who has achieved a state of higher consciousness, such as Lucifer or Sambara, can inject within the dream of the universe various live or apparently live beings. You'll notice that when Sambara was slain by Narayana, he was sent to and settled in the city of Vishnu. City of Vishnu is also called Vaikuntha. This is a loka of enlightened being. When an individual reaches a state of very high level of consciousness and then becomes again ensnared in the illusion, he acts just like Sambara and Lucifer. They become agents of the collective karma and individual karma of the human population. And they began to use their perverted energies as agents of karma to balance the karma. So once again, here we are in the same situation as we were in this time when Vasishtha wrote this. And once again, Narayana is coming to the rescue in the form of his divine plan of Sahasra Sirsha Brahma meditation. Because like Lucifer, we are going to also create an higher consciousness and intelligence that is greater than the sum of its parts. Lucifer is creating a great intelligence using the other agents of destruction known as the global elite, the United Nations. Together, under the influence of Lucifer, they're creating a very strong level of consciousness at 175. The Sahasra Sirsha Brahma collective consciousness will be at level 900. Both 175 and 900 can do magical things in the universe. But 175 is ultimately going to be a destructive influence, whereas 900 is going to be an influence of liberation for all those who are alive as human beings. Continuing, therefore, O Rama, use your reason to have a mind and soul without wishes. A full investigation into truth will immediately put down your desires, and the extinction of desires will restore your mind to rest like an extinguished candle. Complete wisdom consists in the knowledge of there being nothing real in this world, that our knowledge of reality is utterly false, and that nothingness is the true reality. The whole world is full with the Spirit of God. Whatever otherwise one may think of it at any time, there can be no other thought of it except that it is a nothingness. And this forms our perfect knowledge of it. This world that is full of the Spirit of God is literally the world is full of the silent witness. It is, in essence, pure consciousness, which is a nothingness. It is unmanifest. The two significant words, will and mind, are mere insignificant fictions, like the head and trunk of the ascending and descending nodes of a planet, which upon their understanding are lost in the Supreme Spirit. The mind, by its desires, is confined in this world. But when the mind is released from desires, it is said to have its liberation. The mind gains its existence in the belief of men because of the many ideas of pots and pictures and other things that are imprinted upon it. But when these thoughts are repressed, the mind also vanishes of itself, like the phantoms of Yaksha demons. Now, we shouldn't become confused when we read when these thoughts are repressed. One way of thinking of this is that somehow we're holding down the thoughts. And this is possible, requiring great force of will. It is the strategy of the demons to use this force of will to repress thoughts, to create a vanished mind. Because when thoughts are repressed, they are literally forced back into individual karmic traces. What does this ultimately do? Creates stronger individual karmic traces. And so the demons like Lucifer and Sambara are employing a strategy to regain their enlightenment. And you'll want to remember this just in case you find yourself in this same situation someday. You will surely reach Brahman consciousness. But if that doesn't happen, you're going to find yourself in the same situation as Lucifer and Sambara. But you will have the knowledge. At some point, you will have the knowledge of how things work. And then, with your superior intelligence and knowledge, superior to other ordinary human beings, you will apply that to create a sort of explosive pressure cooker in the mind. And instead of balancing karmic traces gently, one at a time, a few at a time, using the techniques of meditation, you will explode the whole mountain range of karma by the will of your mind. This is what happens. It's what happened to Ravana. This is what happened to Sambara. This is what will happen to Lucifer. By taking the karma that has arisen and brought these beings back into reincarnation, and compressing it, there will come a point when the whole thing will explode. And then Sambara returns to the abode of Vishnu. When Ravana was finally slain by Ram, he returned to his enlightened state in the celestial realm. Now, unfortunately, not in Brahman consciousness. So probably they will both be back. Now established in the silent witness, let us continue with the practice of Trimana Sanyama and balance all the karmic traces that have been enlivened by today's reading. Namaste, Gurudev.